Thank you, Toastmaster Steve. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters. So imagine you're ready to step out on stage to deliver your message. How do you want your audience to feel? Amazed? Engaged? You want them to hang on every word. So today I'm going to demonstrate how microphone technique and sound quality can help to improve your audience's experience. So why does sound quality matter? Well, it's actually rooted in our survival. The primitive part of our brain, which involves areas like the amygdala, which help keep us alive, and the hippocampus, which help us to remember negative experiences so we can avoid them in the future, come into play. So when we hear a sudden, loud, intermittent noise, it stimulates this area of the brain into action, calling us to fight, flee, or freeze. This is called auditory startle response, and it's the fastest of all of our startle responses because we often hear danger before we see it. And if the sound quality of your presentation is problematic, it will stimulate this part of the brain and put us on high alert. Then, when the prefrontal cortex finally catches up and determines that there's actually no danger, it just leaves us feeling annoyed. And we don't really want to annoy our audience. So therefore, in this talk, I want to demonstrate a few techniques that you can use for microphone when you go to speak. So this way, your audience will retain your positive message. So let's start with the microphone itself. There are several different types of microphones, and microphones happen to be one of my favorite subjects, so I have brought a couple of my favorite studio microphones. So this is a large diaphragm studio microphone, which is often used for vocals, can also be used for instruments, and it's approximately $1,500. This is another studio microphone I use for my classical work all the time, and this is more like $1,800. And this is my USB podcast microphone, which I could plug into my computer very easily. But instead, I've chosen to use a microphone, this microphone, as a matter of fact, which is very, very common on stage. So you might encounter exactly this microphone when we're able to go and speak on stage again. All right. But all microphones have something in common. Their purpose is to convert acoustic energy into electricity. And they all do this by means of a diaphragm. So I've removed the windscreen from this microphone and you can see the diaphragm. So what happens is the sound pressure from your voice changes and moves the diaphragm back and forth. In this particular microphone, the diaphragm is attached to a coil, which is suspended within a magnetic field. So that coil moves back and forth in the magnetic field and changes your voice into electricity. Pretty cool, huh? But there are some things, two mistakes you should never make with microphones. Mistake number one, never ever blow into a microphone. Because this diaphragm is very sensitive and thus very fragile because the force of your voice will move it. So blowing into the microphone can possibly cause damage to the diaphragm and possibly yourself, depending on how irate your sound engineer is after you've blown into the microphone. So never do that. Another thing never to do is to point a microphone at a speaker. That causes feedback. And that includes speaking and walking in front of a speaker. It also involves having loud headphones around a microphone, which can also cause feedback and thus a negative experience for your audience and possibly damaging the equipment. So here are some things you can consider in terms of microphone technique that can help the sound quality and help the engagement of your audience. And I've categorized them into 3 P's: pickup pattern, proximity effect, and plosives. So all microphones have a pickup pattern, and this is the area that they are most sensitive. In this particular microphone, it is most sensitive in front of it. So ideally, you would speak directly into it. And if you are off axis, the sound changes. So as I turn this microphone around, you'll notice the sound quality changes. It gets less clear and quiet until we get to the back. The back happens to be the least sensitive of this particular microphone. So you want to keep that in mind and speak into the area that is most sensitive for the microphone, for the most clarity. The second P is called proximity effect. And that changes the tone of your voice the closer or the further you speak. So the closer I speak into this mic, the more bass response I get. So you'll notice my voice gets more full. And as I move back, you'll notice my voice gets thinner. You can use this aspect to create more fullness in your voice. However, sometimes if you're too close, we lose some of the clarity. So you'll want to keep that in mind as well. The final P are plosives, and these are consonant sounds, P's, B's, K's, that force a lot of pressure through your mouth. And one of the ways to avoid plosives is to use a windscreen. This microphone has a windscreen attached to it, but I've added an additional one to here. If I wanted to use a windscreen with my podcast mic, it might look like this. So let's see what plosives sound like. So if I remove this windscreen, maybe I can make a plosive happen. Boy, pie. So that's a little harsh. So if I put it back on, boy, pie, less harsh. So now you know some tools and techniques and mistakes to avoid with microphones on stage while speaking. And this will help impact your audience experience and help you to deliver your message with crystal sonic clarity. Thank you.